What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Next Gen Podcast. I got a special one here for you today. I got my boy here, Misha Cavaye, formerly the head strength coach for the South Bay Lakers and performance coach for the Los Angeles Lakers for 8 seasons, and currently the owner of MC Performance and Posture, assistant coach for SMC women's basketball, and kinesiology professor at SMC as well. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming, man.
Nate, thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here. Absolutely.
Of
pleasure.
course.
So excited.
Of course. I've been trying to get you on for a while, so I'm happy. I'm happy we got to make this work.
Good timing.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get into the upbringing and how you got here, actually, can you talk about what you're teaching at SMC? I know we'll talk about it later, but I just want to ask now.
Sure. I'm currently the assistant basketball coach for the women's basketball team. It's just me and the head coach who show up on a day-to-day basis. She has a couple of other assistants, but they only come for games because they're not faculty.
Okay.
So I'm assistant faculty, adjunct faculty, and what we're working on is getting me, some more classes, maybe even in teaching one day when that comes available, because obviously I'm kind of just started right now.
Got it.
So teaching like a health class or intro to king class, and I'm very excited about that because I've always been passionate about teaching.
Yeah.
But more exciting for me is in the off season they're going to start having me doing the strength and conditioning for the ladies, so having a weightlifting class as well, and just even maybe teaching weightlifting to regular students, whatever it is. I mean, that's what I love to do. So I'm very excited about it. It's a new chapter of my life, but it's home. It's where I started this journey. I started at SMC as a student, international student.
Right.
So to go back there, it's kind of full circle.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. We'll elaborate on that more. But speaking of which, obviously tell everyone how did you get here? Tell us about your upbringing and how it all started.
Man, so I have quite an upbringing because I grew up in a completely different part of the world. To be honest, I was born in Japan, but I only lived there for a few months. My parents were teaching music there because they're musicians.
Oh, okay.
But I was brought up in London because that's where my dad is from, or around where he's from. So raised in London for 18 years of my life. Got attracted to sports as I was hitting that adolescence age, and ironically, it wasn't soccer as you'd think. I guess that was because in an abundance, you seek other things, and it was the electrifying excitement of the NBA that caught my attraction.
Wow. Even while you were living in London as well.
Yeah, limited exposure. You're talking about once a week on TV, like that NBA TV recap show, but seeing that and those highlights was like, oh man. And then it just so happened that I went to a school kind of in the inner city that didn't have any fields or anything. It only had a concrete playground with a basketball hoop.
Wow.
And we weren't even allowed to kick a soccer ball because we were afraid it would go into the next door offices and whatnot. So we could only play basketball.
Wow.
And we also even had these two classmates who were like junkies and brought like NBA information. So it was like that influence that made me sort of love it. And then there was even a basketball team there that I didn't make, and then when I didn't make it, I got very upset. And what does that remind you of another person, right? And that drive to no, I really want to do this. And then I then went to more basketball academies where you kind of learn skill development to eventually club teams. Where they told me, if you really want to do this, you should go to a camp in America. And then eventually went to my first camp out in America at 15 years old. Got destroyed, but learned so much that fueled me greatly. I was like, okay, this is how you have to work hard at the game. This is how the speed you have to play at. I go back the next year to the same camp and I end up winning MVP.
Wow.
Because I just had improved so much and so forth. There was all these hopes of going to a high school, but I guess because of rules and regulations, high school in America that is, because of rules and regulations, we just never did it, I guess, because, they try to limit international students from coming over and such.
Okay.
I guess not always, right?
Yeah.
It depends on how good you are. But we should have done it anyway, but what we decided to do was look for a junior college to go to. So we just explored various options through family, friends, and acquaintances. One of which was here in LA, my former nanny, and she was like, why don't you just come to SMC? They have a lot of international students. You should talk to the coach, which we did. Coach was kind of receptive enough, you know, he just didn't tell me to go away. He was like, you'll have a shot if you work hard. And I don't know, it was good enough at the time. Obviously, there was a lot of uncertainty and doubt, but I grew up playing this game as a hustler and really determined to work hard.
Yeah.
I started loving this game as Michael Jordan stepped out. So the idol at the time was Kobe Bryant.
Right.
And I think what he was famous for was the hard work. And like, this guy is the best player, most talented, but also working harder than anybody.
Right.
So that was just kind of that example of, well, you got to work hard. If you really want to get to America and play this game at the highest level, because obviously I wanted to play in the NBA, you better work day and night, all that. So, you know, in England, we didn't have a lot of indoor gyms. Of course, there are some, but the use isn't there. So you're talking, I really was the rain or shine guy out in the outdoor courts, gloves in the wintertime because your fingers are freezing. But anything you can just to get good, because there was nobody else pushing me. It was really just me, up to me, just getting myself better.
And your parents are on board, obviously, seems like.
Honestly, they were. Like, my sister obviously if she went into the music realm with them, they're all musicians, and they kind of do that to this day, and they're happy doing that. But they were happy I didn't do that, because it's not an easy life, as you may know. Musicians, it's a hustle and grind in its own right. Not that athletics is any better, but they just supported that. And the fact that I loved it, I think they were inspired by that.
That's amazing.
Because I didn't necessarily love music per se.
Yeah,
so they supported it. They were like, okay. And obviously they supported me financially. Without that, I don't think I would have been able to make this journey happen. Because plenty of people back home have asked me, okay, how'd you do it? And I'm like, well, to be honest, if you don't have that financial support, it's really difficult. Because that's number one. But anyway, they chose to do that, and I went to SMC. No promises, nothing. Just a coach that said, if you work hard, I'll give you a chance. And it was, the junior college journey was not like great or anything. It was a bunch of redshirting. I played my only year at Tacoma Community College in Washington State, sidetrack, because the camp I had gone to was up in Washington. And so a lot of the coaches I'd gotten to know had actually gone there, and they'd actually transferred to good schools.
Okay.
SMC, year one, redshirt, but make a really good impression where, well, I didn't even really redshirt. I didn't even make the team, but I made such a good impression going into the season. It's like they brought me onto the practice kind of as a redshirt player. So that was great, because you went from nobody to actually, okay, come practice with us because you're good enough. Then the second year, being told, no, you're not going to get playing time, anything, and I let that sit with. I took that so much literally, to the point where, like, well, let me transfer to this other college just because I have friends there, maybe I'll get playing time, and then I will transfer somewhere good, because I wanted to transfer to a big college. I go up there, I play my only year, it's not very good, we're not a good team, it's a bad experience. I miss LA like crazy. So come back to SMC, end up redshirting again, because get told, you're not going to get playing time, and eventually that coach, who's that first the same coach from the first year, he gets fired. They bring in a new coach, and he's like, no, I'm bringing in all these new players. So just hearing that over and over kind of did crush my confidence. Although lesson learned, even from everything I've seen now in all my years of basketball, never let a coach say, I'm not going to play you, dictate your effort, because things happen, players go down, things happen, and by the end of the season, the player who's not getting playing time is getting playing time. And that is not, I'm not saying my regret, but kind of like my one, I would go change that. Because I feel like I let their coaches' words be like, okay, well, I'm not good enough, then I'll I'll sit out, do something
Right.
else. And it's like, no, you should have just played.
Right.
But long story short, I kind of got out of playing because I always knew I wanted to go into coaching at a high level. And if I wasn't going to play at a high level,
Right.
it's like, well, I'm going to learn at a high level. I didn't want to go play at a D3 or whatever. I was like, no, I want to learn from the top. So the goal was you're going to go be a student manager or whatever at a big school.
Right.
So then, finished with basketball playing, and it just so happened Cal State Northridge gave me the best opportunity, which was a video coordinator.
Oh, nice.
And from there, just doing that, I kind of got into strength and conditioning. When I was doing strength and conditioning internship, I decided to do that. In my last year, just before graduating, I was like, all right, what else could I do to just kind of fulfill my well-roundedness here.
Yeah.
I've done 3 years with the men and video coordinating. I was like, let me just try to check out strength and conditioning as well, just to get that vibe. I was kinesiology major too.
Okay.
And that just made me fall in love with strength and conditioning.
Amazing. Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. You answered that. So like I guess that's how you got into sports performance or strength and conditioning. So what were like?
Well, quick little side story.
Sure.
Because I was not quick, skinny, unathletic kid coming to California JUCO level, which is full of athletic guys. I was told you're not fast enough, all that. So I basically fell in love with weight training when I got here. I'd had some exposure to weight training. Shout out to my coach Garnett Jones back home, because he was always an advocate for weight training when very few coaches at the time were back in London. He had a track and field mindset, so we did a lot of track and field stuff. So I had a good basis, but then when I got out here and it's just like, okay, you're going to lift twice a week, no problem. Or twice, if not 3 times a week, zero problem. Down with it. I'm ready to push and get on some size, which previously was very downplayed. Like, you can't put on size; it's going to stud your growth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But 18-year-old me in a new country, it's like, yeah, let's go. So I kind of fell in love with that, and I ended up falling in love with even the conditioning aspect, because it's like, okay, the only way you're going to keep up with these guys, you better run your hardest in the sprints. Right. So that was all, or even on the track. That's the other thing, is like, I was never a good runner, but I made myself a good runner just because I fell in love with the conditioning. And so I guess that sparks that same, like, I'm good at the physical side, and then you build the knowledge, and then you have the actual practical experience, and then it's like match made in heaven.
Right. No, it's great. You have to find your lane,
Right. Yeah.
Everyone has their strengths. Everyone has how they, the means of which they like contribute to the game. So you have to find yours.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So piggybacking off of that, what were like early influences that led to like this career in coaching? Obviously Northridge was like your first exposure.
What made me want to get into coaching, though?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, from the performance side.
Just you know what? I guess I gave him a shout out already. My coach in London, just because he was this physical-minded yet skill-minded coach. We did a lot of cone work and a lot of physical stuff. Maybe not the best X's and O's, but we did a lot of that. And guess what? I'm great at those two things to this day. Is more so the player development when it comes to coaching.
Yeah.
So, and because I was very good at getting better at myself, doing drills and integrating stuff. So 100%. When it came to, damn, I'm not going to play anymore. What do I do? Shout out to now my supervisor, boss, whatever, Coach Strong from SMC. At the time, when I was a student at SMC, I reached out to her. I'm like, well, I don't want to play anymore. What do I do? And she gave me a lot of good advice. Not only that, she kind of hooked me up with my first job.
That's great.
Which was player development coaching at Hoop Masters Basketball Academy. They no longer exist, unfortunately. They went down during COVID, but they were around the Santa Monica area.
I've heard of them.
Affiliated with Compton Magic.
Okay.
So a lot of players back and forth.
That's right.
Jules Bernard right now in the G League as well, who I coached. So she hooked me up with that job. So that was player development. Obviously, at the time, you're just like, well, this is all I know. It's kind of like ignorance, but it developed into a niche even.
Right. 100%.
Not only that, I helped recruit for Coach Strong too. She was like, you want to recruit for me in that first year? And she, just not unofficial job, but just go talk to some high school girls and exchange information. I know it sounds creepy and weird this day and age, but
recruiting.
But we did it, and that was great. Little again. Oh wow, this is what coaching's like. You know, even bear in mind, I've just given up playing. It's an open wound. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's an open wound, but
the transition's hard.
But this was exciting. This new, like, hey, you're working with kids, getting them better skills. Okay, you're working with a college team. I even ended up a student assistant, volunteer assistant for the men's team too. So the same coach that pretty much said I'm going to bring all my players.
Right.
I asked him for help too, and he was like, "Well, you can help me." And that was an experience, but you know, again, I just getting this well-rounded introductory, great. Not getting paid much, but like taste of coaching. And then to which Coach Strong also told me, get your, master's, which has bailed me out to this day because I got the SMC job easily because I have a master's.
Right.
She told me to investigate CSCS because she was like, if you get a strength coach license, then you'll be so marketable. So that kind of planted the seed too early on.
Amazing. It's great advice.
But to be honest with you, being at Northridge, that the way the D1 coaching was there, it was just very hierarchical, and it just wasn't the most funnest experience. And, you just didn't feel very appreciated at times.
Of course.
Head coach barely even said a word to you for 3 years, kind of thing. So it just didn't make me say, I really want to go into high-level coaching.
Yeah.
But again, that's strength and conditioning, and again, being a physical guy, training guy yourself, and now you learned all the kinesiology stuff, and here you are doing it. It was just, again, such a more of a match made in heaven that just took off. So I don't know exactly who else influenced me physically, but it just kind of just segued into there because it just fit what I did more.
Yeah.
No,
for sure. Also, it's crazy because we were there. We were at Northridge around the same time. I was there. It was your tail end, and it was my beginning because you were there. You left. I saw you interned at what, 2010?
Just before that, 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
8 to 10. So 3 years. 7, 08. No. Right. No. Yeah. No, 08, 09 because we went to the tournament. 9, 10, and 10, 11. So I graduated in 10, and then the tail end, 11, the rest of 2011, I kind of just hung around, worked with a team, and then that was it. That was it.
So I went to school there. So my freshman year was 2010.
Got it.
So
So
we were
kind of around the same.
We were both there. It's crazy.
I mean, I by that latter years, I was spending as little time there as possible. I was in school for so long because I was at SMC or junior college for close to 4 years.
Right.
1 year redshirt, 1 year play at Tacoma, another year redshirt, and then that's whole interning year of volunteering, coaching. So 4 years junior college, 3 years at a 4 year. I was done. I was like, get me out of here.
Of course. No, of course. I saw Compton Magic on your your experience.
I only put it because there's nothing linked with Hoop Masters, but it's just like, okay, I've worked with a bunch of these players. Okay, that's the little unofficial thing. If I have one thing to own up to, I've never worked with the Compton Magic. It was more just players because that's the travel team. Hoop Masters was the academy. I did all the academy stuff, and actually that's another segue into strength and conditioning because
I figured
we had people kind of come and do like little conditioning things, and it was always so whack. And again, I had learned everything. So then one day I'm like, hey guys, why don't I do the conditioning instead of player development? Because you got all these coaches for player development, and I know the conditioning. And they're like, yeah, sure. And it was a hit then too. Players, all the kids loved it. So again, just exposure just made you kind of love it.
That's great. You got autonomy and all that.
Yeah. But again, I love the fusion, because I think that's how you get a better product in the end.
Of course.
So that's why I even went down the physical realm, because it bothered me how little coaches know about the
100%
physical body.
100%.
And that you don't need any coaching qualification to really coach, right? You can just you just need the masters, and you can be at a JUCO or a 4-year, and it doesn't matter even if you have CPR, which to this day we know now is vital with the way players are going down.
Yeah.
So it bothered me that we don't know anything, and that's why I even went to the strength and conditioning internship, because I was like, what if I'm a coach of a team one day and I do the conditioning. I better know what I'm doing. So therefore, let me do this internship, and it just took off.
That's great.
You know,
that's good. It's a good lens to have, because I feel like to me and to you it seems like the obvious choice, but it's obvious. We know that it's not.
Right.
So
right,
it's great. So let's fast forward a bit. Let's talk about how you got your position with the Lakers and going into that.
So what's funny is, okay, so I leave Northridge. I do 6 months at Equinox because it was something to do out of college.
Yeah.
And I didn't last very long because we were in a very sales-heavy location where if you weren't hitting your sales, you're out.
Which location?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, okay.
Yeah. And that's a very young population of clientele too. So it was tough for me being pretty much an athletic performance-based coach to really upsell myself with, being new to game. Fun fact though, that's where I learned that you got to be good with injuries, because if you're good with injuries,
right.
you'll be able to upsell more and be more helpful to people.
Right.
If you're not, if you're just performance, you're kind of the same with everybody else.
Right.
Or, not to put it like that, but that put that spark into me. I was like, okay, I really need to get this injury game going. So just a little side, because obviously I work a lot with injury posture stuff. So that was another little spark of, okay, there's levels to this that we can go into. But anyway, I don't last long at Equinox, but I have this burning desire to do strength training and learn injuries. Unemployed, my friend who is an SMC connection, he was the student manager there.
Okay.
He's working with the Lakers as a ball boy.
Okay.
And there was a few people from SMC that kind of grandfathered each other in who were working with different teams. So,
cool.
So him out of his, kind of carrying on that tradition, he was like, all right, well, I can help you out. The defenders, LA Defenders at the time, they need a ball boy. Do you want to come work for them? Shoot, I'm on. I ain't got nothing better to do. I'm unemployed. It was during the lockout season. And I'm just happy to be there. And they put me on rebounding duties. And I'm just, I'm young and athletic. I'm trying to impress people. So I'm rebounding my ass off. And then the equipment manager of the Lakers sees me hustling. He's like, okay, we need a good rebounder for the Lakers. Let's hire him. And that's within 3 games of working with the defenders. Where
great.
At the time, you got to remember, this is Mike Brown's first year Lakers, but this is still high-level Lakers, championship persona. We're talking the ball boys were there since Magic Johnson days.
Damn.
They weren't ball boys, they were ball men. So people didn't quit. So to get in was oh my God, you're in. It was Christmas time. I had to cancel a Christmas trip home because it was you can't miss your first game. You gotta go.
Wow.
So it hit the decks running, and I again was really happy to be in, and had was so grateful that I busted my ass trying to do everything I could to impress everybody. But side story, I'd actually got a little bit of exposure before this, because during preseason, when they do their little tour around, they go Anaheim or the Honda Center in Ontario. They just go around different parts of the state, and that's when the regular ball men didn't want to go to those games, so they needed volunteers. So from 07, 08, so pretty much 07 through 10, I volunteered for the Lakers several preseason games.
Wow.
So I already had exposure.
That is high-level Lakers years, for sure. It's Kobe, Powell.
Yeah. So I'd already kind of learned what the whole ball boy thing was about, because I got these preseason exposures.
Yeah.
And it was just really fun. Never got paid. It was all for the tips. But it was that kind of again planted that seed now of okay, I want to work in the pros. Because I had that little taste of it, and I was like, okay, I don't really like feeling D1. Strength and conditioning is cool, but not really want to. JUCO is cool. I kind of done that. I wouldn't mind doing that. But pros, now that I got a taste of it, this is where it's at. This is where I really want to be.
That's cool. That's such a cool story, because I remember when, kind of like we talked about, when I was in high school, I got cut from my high school team my senior year. And I was first it was the oh my God. it's kind of like the revenge factor comes in. It's like, F that coach. I'm gonna be a coach, and I'm gonna be a better coach than him. And like, once you realize you're not gonna make it to the NBA, which that's a realization every kid comes to, I'm sure, or most kids come to, is like, I'm like, all right, well, if I'm not gonna play in the NBA, I want to work in the NBA at some point. I was like, I'll even be a ball boy. I was like, I'd be more than happy to be just a ball boy in the NBA, at a young age and all that. So it's cool to see like that you found a way into the pros, and they kind of blossomed. Obviously, you're gonna talk more now, but like it blossomed into the next thing and the next thing. And also about the tips, I had a friend of a friend in high school. I think he was a ball boy for the Clippers, and he, as a high school kid who was getting tips, I don't know how much he was getting, but who's tipping ball boys? Is it players? Is it?
Well, it's different when you're, if you're full-time, well, not full-time, but if you're with them year-round, there's a lot of opportunities. Because it was preseason, well, first of all, I guess regular preseason, regular season, the equipment manager of the visiting team always has to give or should give a tip. It's like, everybody does it. They're all in a union, they all decide on it. Okay. And obviously performance-based, but they should be given a tip to the ball boys. So it's a fat amount, at least 120 if not more. Then there's referee tips. So referees get taken care of. They always do the same. They have to leave a tip.
The referees give tips to the ball boys?
Yeah, we take care of them.
Wow.
So then kind of collect that together. Then there's individual tips for services done for the players, like getting food and stuff, which some teams have done every man for himself, but we had a rule where, well, we got to take care of each other, right? Someone has to hold the locker room down, so if you get food, we'll share all the money, but because we're going to make sure everything's taken care of, we're not being irresponsible kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of ran it, and I would always be the food guy because I was fast on my feet. I remember these were ball men. And so, so you just hustle and grind in that way.
That's cool.
But obviously, once I started working with the Lakers, then the tips were just extra money on the side by that point.
Yeah, that's great. I remember when I was with the Pacers, and I remember the ball boys. I just remember this one time in particular. I was in the back, like filling. I think I was filling up the players' water bottles. It was a game day, so I was filling the guys' water bottles with water, Gatorade, whatever. Filling up the buckets of ice, to take on take to the bench and everything. And then I remember the ball boys came in, and they always come in and they get ready for game day as well. But I remember one day they came in, and they all got shoes from, I don't know who, but their supervisor gave them all shoes. I remember they're all like little kids, but they're all so happy. So I don't know, as you were talking about like all the players sticking together and taking care of each other and getting tips and everything, I didn't see them get tips. That's separate. But I saw them get shoes, and I thought that was a really cool perk,
Yeah, I mean, definitely got my share of Kobe's. I mean, not a lot. Like I didn't go crazy because I should have maybe. But I got my fair share of Kobe's or just little things here and there. Yeah, you definitely get the hookups.
That's cool.
But probably I would say, just to kind of even answer your question on the whole thing about the ball boy job, I guess the main goal there was even to network. The whole goal, I mean, I was get in any way you can.
100%.
Because I don't necessarily want to do that physical labor. It felt degrading at times because you always knew I can do more than this.
Right. 100%. Of course.
Because no offense, people would sometimes look down on you. Well, not if you're friendly and nice personality. Again, it's how you present yourself. But if you kind of people sometimes, they're not going to show you respect if it's a lower end position. But the goal was you're going to learn everything you can, and you're going to pick brains, and you're going to network.
You're in the building.
Funny story about tips, well, there's tips or tickets, right? Not many tickets because it's usually you get those from the Laker team, more so. And I didn't work the Lakers side. I worked the visiting side.
Oh, okay.
And then, they always get limited tickets, so they're like,
and
it's LA,
gone.
so they're always out, right?
Right.
The pros of working the visiting side, though, I got to meet every strength coach, got to meet every athletic trainer.
Oh, wow.
Many more staff members this way.
That's great.
And so that was kind of like
That's
my
true.
intro to picking brains and asking, hey,
Nice.
how do I get into this field? You know, what do I do? Blah, blah, blah. And
when would
all
you
that.
do that? 'Cause you have to pick and choose your moments.
Well, I was the rebounding ball boy. So, and at the time, this was kind of, the strength and conditioning industry has really shifted in the NBA. Like in my 14 years or 13 years I've been there. At the time, it was a lot more, I guess, stability exercises and rehab stuff. Nowadays, you see these big trunks of dumbbell blocks and stuff being unloaded in the hallway and such.
Right.
So usually you would see the strength coach activate on the court, kind of like how we do in the G League because we don't have equipment. So it's really funny how what you see you end up becoming. But yeah, just bands and all that stuff on the side.
For sure.
And I'm rebounding, and when I see the strength coach got a quick minute, I introduce myself and let him know. Or even in the latter years, I'd be when I was graduated and we had some more younger guys now, and I was the more senior ball boy. I was in charge of just manning the locker room, so I'd be the face.
Nice.
So then again, just easy chance to just chit-chat to the strength coaches or massage therapists, because I'm also, massage licensed.
Right.
That was influenced by our massage therapist at the time, because again, picking brains of our own staff. So we had a small staff of 5. It's OG Gary Vitti.
Right.
Shout out to him, because he actually did mentor me.
That's great.
Which is amazing. He
That's
called
amazing.
me into his office several times to discuss my path, and
Wow.
that was great.
That's amazing.
I didn't even realize how special it was at the time.
Yeah.
But we had Timmy D. Francesco, ATC DPT, high level. Marco Nunez, shout out to him, great mentor.
And Sean Light for a little bit, right?
That was after I already got hired.
Okay.
So this was just one strength coach.
Okay.
Him doing everything.
Wow.
So that's how I kind of learned how to do everything, because you're talking supplements, vitamins, cleaning up the weight room, running an elite strength and conditioning program, knowledge. So looked up to he was a huge influence.
Yeah, shout out to Tim.
Shout out to Tim. Marco Nunez is doing his own thing right now, because he's the one that hired me initially for my job once Gary stepped out. And then there was another Marco, the massage therapist from Finland, and he was performance coach, but massage therapist.
Nice.
/ physio background. So again, I felt very like, geez, how am I going to even get into this field if I'm not like athletic trainer or something? And matter of fact, that's one thing Gary did say to me. He had a little bit of old school mentality, but he was like, I don't think you're going to get into this field unless you're an athletic trainer. He didn't realize that athletic trainer, the degree had changed a lot, because he thought, well, you could just come do your hours here and do the school and get a degree. No, I got to go work football. I got to go work all these different sports. He didn't realize that it was a lot longer process. So I wasn't going to go down that road. So that's the bit of mentorship I didn't listen to. But from what the massage therapist told me, he encouraged, he was like, well, you should get a massage license, because then you can do 2 things.
Right.
And then it dawned on me, I was like, hold on. If I can do the treatment side, and if I understand the rehab side, which Timmy D's great at, I don't need the medical licensure, the degree or whatever, because I don't need to evaluate. You guys can evaluate. I can do the work. That makes me a valuable component.
Sure.
So that's why I went into first the massage license, but then after that, a more highly specialized certification, myofascial release, so it's more applicable for athletes. So I had that brewing on the side, just because, again, picking brains, talking to different massage therapists. Hey, what's the best modality out there?
Right.
Probably the most influential conversation of my life, because I was the assistant equipment manager of the time at the Lakers for 5 years, before ever getting hired as a strength coach for the South Bay team. I had the head equipment manager, who was close with Kobe, had a lot of trust in me.
Wow,
and
nice.
so this was the last 5 years of Kobe's career that I was with the Lakers. So that trust, I got to take Kobe to the airport a few times in the van to take his helicopter home.
Wow.
Fun story, a couple of times the van was not even available. I had to take him in my 2-door Hyundai Accent.
No way.
Twice.
No way.
Yes.
He wasn't like, fuck this. Like
he was like, this is dirtier than a mofo. But and then the second time, well, if he needs to go, we need to go. And the van's not available. He's like, well, get your car then.
Wow.
And it's funny because when we were stopped at the light, somebody in the next car did actually recognize him. He was like, oh, it's Kobe. And he just, does the hand up, ducks his head. Yeah. But I was so embarrassed. But usually we're just riding this bootleg van, right? It's just a like a painter's van kind of thing to the airport. And he's very intimidating, always on his phone, not very conversational. But because I had been known him for a few years, I worked up the courage one day to ask him, hey, what's your favorite way to recover and so forth? And he just gave me he went off. He just gave me a good answer, like not just, no short answer, just well, I have a guy for this, I have a guy for that, I have a guy for this. Well, I really like structural integration. I think that's one of the best modalities out there. Ding, 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 structural integration, myofascial release, okay. And that's what I went into ultimately, based off of his words. But he really endorsed strength and conditioning. He was like, you have to get stronger. All right, noted. You fell in love more with the true strength game as well, because I realized how important that is. I mean, I didn't realize what that conversation was at the time, because I guess I was around him daily.
Of course.
But now that conversation fuels me to this day.
Wow.
It was really special. So that's kind of like, it was like a 5-year-long internship where you're doing, again, like student manager stuff, ball boy stuff. You are doing it, but you get to learn and see, and they built their trust, the performance staff built their trust in me based off of that.
Wow.
And so then when Kobe retired and there was a lot of movement in the organization, they decided then they were going to have a strength coach for the G League team. So that's when I got that
Only
spot.
then, huh? Wow.
Only then. Well, only then. Well, only then were they even going to have an assistant for the Lakers. So actually, I was trying to.
So they're really behind in terms of like.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, just structure of I don't even know what the word is. Structure of staffing for the performance side.
Very limited staffing at the time.
Wow.
Very close knit. In fact, I was almost initially hoping to be. Marco Nunez was even trying to get me on the Lakers staff. Initially as the assistant, but I didn't really have any experience, so it wasn't the right decision even at the time. So they put me with the South Bay Lakers as the very first strength coach, and I was like, wait a minute, I was going to do, because I was also going to be the massage therapist of the Lakers, I was going to be the massage therapist there, so can I do massage therapy here? And they were like, of course. So I ended up being a dual strength coach, massage therapist, but I had to be the equipment manager too, because it's the G League. So I was working 3 positions all up until the COVID time.
Wow. I mean, really, if you say G League, you're working like 7 positions because you're doing everything.
I mean, it was too much to do equipment. So that really stressed me. That was hard. That was hard. And then after COVID, they were like, finally, we're going to get you an equipment manager. And I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
So, in general, they were a little behind with staffing. So.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. I feel like at that point, like, the high-performance model was already coming in, and
I mean, it's, again, like I said, it's changed. The whole aura, the whole way performance of the NBA, I think, has changed. At the time, a lot more ATs were strength coaches, and nowadays I see a lot more strength coaches. And you have more of each. So you have more ATs in the AT room, you have more strength coaches.
Right.
And it just seems to be the way, a lot more individualized programming and stuff.
Yeah, I would say that for sure. Damn. I'm definitely gonna ask you about more Kobe stories.
Yeah, we went through a lot in that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Actually, the ball boy years were amazing because of that, the intimacy. That's that's the one thing of the ball boy years. It's like, okay, it was a grind. It wasn't the most glamorous. You really felt like nobody at times because you're in Staples with all these rich people walking around. Yeah. You're in courtside, right? But those intimate moments with the players, they're not always great, but they're few and far between of golden moments.
Of course. I agree. I mean, I was only there I only had 1 season, but I know what you're saying. I can feel what you're saying. Since we're talking about like performance staff and everything.
Yeah.
Real quick. I mean, you could speak on, because you've been so long tenured, so you can speak on also like the change. But I was gonna ask you like to speak on the role of collaborations with just among staff, ATs to PTs, PTs to strength staff, whatever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll add on top of that how that's changed.
Well, they've always wanted to collaborate, I guess. In fact, that was the whole point with the Lakers' previous staff of 5 that were all at least PTs, if not ATCs, that Gary said. He's like, well, we at least all understand kind of this same thing. And then I don't know if they didn't like meet a lot. I mean, maybe they did on the road. I don't know. I didn't see necessarily having staff meetings every day, but there was at least that kind of, it was small enough of a group, I guess. 5 is easy to manage, right?
For sure.
The problem now is that they want ultra collaboration with multiple people, and there's a saying for this: too many cooks spoil the food, whatever it is, and it is literally true. And especially at the higher level, the more of the specialist you bring in, the more of that. Well, I'm here to do what I do. I mean, we're already like that. Like, I'm working where we work or wherever I go. I'm not going to change what I know. I'm going to operate the way I operate because I know what works. And obviously the higher level you get, the more of that mindset you're going to have. So it gets harder the more of these people we're going to try and bring in. And that's one thing I sensed even on my last days because, obviously we didn't mention it, but I was let go this year by the Lakers. That was what ended that tenure. And even just towards those latter days, you just start to see like, man, there's bringing in more and more people. I can do all these things that they're bringing in, and we're not even empowering our own staff.
Right.
We're just always looking at shiny new toys.
Right.
And that is a real thing with the problem with the pros. It's just a shiny new toy industry, which is why whether it's the performance staff or coaching staff, it's so unstable.
It is,
because at any time GM could be like, well, we'll go with this. Let's try this. Yeah. And then you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately.
That's why everyone like in the league is like walking on eggshells. I feel like everyone's number one priority in the league, from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I know, is like everyone's just number one priority is keep my job. So like everyone is like tiptoeing around each other, tiptoeing around their supervisors, like, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's a very high stress, I don't know what the opposite of empowering is, but whatever that word is, like there's not much empowerment going on. It's all about like, I'm going to do whatever my supervisor tells me to do because I don't want to get fired.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for full transparency, my stress level and happiness is so much better now. Right. Even though I was on the South Bay side, which generally didn't have issues with people getting fired, although until this off season when they let our whole staff go. But usually that was never an issue. It was just on the Lakers side. But even still, my coworkers are here today, gone tomorrow, and even that unknown of, are they going to bring me up? I was with South Bay for 8 years. Go figure. There was a lot of firings that took place for 8 years, and I never got my chance, which was incredibly frustrating. But it's just the higher level you go, the more political it can get, and the more they want to outsource and bring people in. And that's the Lakers for you. You're talking about arguably the third most popular team, according to Google, globally, behind like Manchester United and Barcelona. Right. And they're, second most winning team organization in the NBA now, behind Boston, but still arguably, the top level. So it's a hard, it's a hard rat race to run, It is. And it was very frustrating because you were trying year after year your hardest to improve, bring the best. You're talking about Mamba influence here, so I don't play around when it comes to improvement and the Mamba mentality. That really resonates with me.
100%.
Again, rain or shine, I was out in the court. And fun story, when I did get the strengths job, I did feel a little like, oh boy, this is real deal. You better know your stuff. Yeah. So I was always into kind of dedicating to studying, because obviously we're done with college. Got my massage license, okay, a little dedication there. Got my CSCS, a little dedication there. Okay, went into the Myo Detox program, which is myofascial release. Okay, that was a big commitment to improving your craft. But then, that's all I had going into this job. I could do with some more, like, specializing and so forth. So I went certification crazy, but in a good way. I'm not gonna say like go do anything just to get letters behind your name. No, I systematically picked out organizations that were gonna help me. FRC, PRI, DNS,
nice.
NKT, and I just really dove in because, first of all, they were helping and they were really giving me some useful tools, and everything was kind of building on something that I'd already kind of, this understanding from movement, fascia into neurology and what really affects it all, and it turned into an obsession of, I just want to really just know as much about the body and be as good and well-rounded as possible. And so no matter what, I just wanted to improve, get better, study, learn. On airplanes, reading books, and players are always like, man, you really love this craft. Like, that's the one thing I got told by players year after year is like, man, you really care about the body and how we get better. And that's the truth. I really do,
It's amazing.
So that was like something I just hit so hardcore. And tried my best, emptied the tank, and I no regrets because it's made me a great professional, but nobody cares over there. Nobody cares. Especially because I'm working with non-contracted players. I mean, they cared, but they're just here today, gone tomorrow.
Right.
If they get a contract, they're not in the position to endorse me or anything.
Right.
They're just happy to have a contract.
Right.
And because I was never exposed to enough, those NBA high contracted players, only NBA players who got sent down to the G League.
Right.
If I was actually working the NBA, I'm sure I would have had a little bit more pull or support. But in the G League, especially at that level where they only care about championships, as you even know, all the staff, all the players in G League, they were very frustrated at that level.
I bet.
But we're happy to see a lot of our former players be successful in other places because they've gone on to shine and be allowed to, you can blossom in this place where it's a little more open and free,
Yeah. No, of course. All right, let me get some stories out of you. Let's see if I can pick out some stories. I mean, just imagining Kobe just like bunched up in a small car. It's funny, but
well, the front seat had enough room at least, but it's a hatchback. It was noticeable that there was somebody big in there, and then if you just turn your head and you're like, Kobe, Kobe.
What about like in terms of like I guess any notable players that you had I don't know, a memorable moment with in the weight room?
Oh, well, at South Bay?
South Bay, either, yeah.
Man, a lot. I mean, first off, shout out to Andre Ingram, the G League GOAT.
Yeah, wow.
I knew him from my first year.
Wow.
Because I was a ball boy for Defenders and Lakers, and that was his first year with the Defenders. So we kind of got to know each other then. And then when I was a strength coach, he joined us mid-season, and we hit it off right away because he was all about the right physical prep and taking care of your body, but they had never had a strength coach before. You're just one athletic trainer doing everything. Obviously, you're not going to get the attention you need. So once we had each other, we had such great times. And you're talking, he stayed in the off season even where most G League players go home.
Yeah.
He had a special arrangement where he stayed.
Wow.
Brought his kids to school even, and we would train, do everything from sprint training to our mobility days at the beach. Just one of them golden one-on-one moments that you can get to really explore different elements of your programming, because you're talking about elite level athletes, so you don't have to do basics. We can go and do plyometrics, we can go and do funky mobility stuff, and he loved it all, and that was great. But also loved working with Shaq Harrison, not a big name, but Defensive Player of the Year, absolute stud. Just not NBA level anymore. He's in Europe now, but he was always getting a call up every year. 8 years in the G League, getting called up numerous times every year.
Oh, wow.
Elite defender. I'm talking probably the best defender I've seen. Sorry if I've upset anybody else that I've coached with, but Shaq Harrison is just one of the awesome guy to have, awesome weightlifter. And then we have to also give a mention to Scottie Pippen Jr., who is amazing rookie. Just like you're talking about, I've worked with a lot of rookies from Ivica Zubac through to this last one, which is Max Lewis. Scottie Pippen was by far one of the best rookies because never missed a beat. Wow. Always showed up for a weightlifting session. You know, he might not have the energy, but he'll get through it. He won't complain. You know, never showed any complaint in his face. And so that you know, and I'll go figure with rookies, you're going to hit that wall. You're going to hit the attitude at some point. Yeah. You know, so he was amazing. Jay Huff they're both with Memphis, by the way. Jay Huff, who's 7'3", shot blocker with Memphis. He was amazing. You know, like.
You were with Mac McClung was on the South.
Mac McClung, I was going to bring him up too because he inspired me greatly. I could see the kid really wanted to work hard, but he really wanted to do things his way, and he basically had it his way a lot in college. And so here at the pros, we had to also tell him, no, you got to kind of do things the way we want because we know what's best for you.
From what perspective, like basketball perspective or performance?
Even performance. Okay. Because I guess he had some bad experiences at some of the places he played at in college, maybe some bad information. So he was very protective of his body. Okay. Plus, he had done things his way, and he's very successful with them. But that's what resonated with me. So I'm like, look, I'll take care of the rehab stuff. I'll teach you how to do that. Right. But I'm very intrigued by all this plyo stuff. We can integrate some stuff if you want to do a little bit of both. And that's when well, first of all, he then gave me the program because, you know, he has a program with PJF. Shout out to PJ. He gave me the program, so I had access to all the exercises, and I really liked it. It was not so much about the intensive plyos, but more so all the creative, extensive plyos they had.
Agreed.
So I started, it's a good program. And you do a lot of that stuff, and I love it, right? It's so good. It just little things that just sharpen you up that much better for when you do a big jump, right? Yeah. So we start implementing all of that stuff pre-game activation, and not just for him, for the whole team. I'm like, well, you shouldn't be the only one being good at this footwork. Yeah, of course. The worst guy needs to be good at this footwork, and the players liked it. Yeah. You know, because we're not killing you. We're just talking like, just get your foot going nice and fast and. It's multi-directional.
It's quick CNS work. It's fun. It's engaging. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he really inspired me with that, and not only that, got me back into my dunking journey because, you know, as a player, again, physical guy, you know, I learned to dunk based purely off of training. You know, I'm not an athletic dude otherwise, so if I don't practice, and just being around him, seeing him fly, just inspired me, and just training hard. So I was like, all right, well, let's give this one last go before you lose it. So kind of still doing that, you know, still trying to keep my dunking. I'm 39 now, trying to dunk as long as I can. But mainly because I also was that kid doing plyometrics in his basement. Air alert, you know, and that was out when I was 15. Wow. You know, because again, how do I get more athletic? How do I dunk? And just doing these jumps in my basement on a Saturday night is how I learned to dunk. So learning that about him just really resonated with me. And we had a lot of fun because he dedicated to that game day lift routine. It was like, no, I want to lift every day almost. Get into the gym. Just a little bit every day, and we just developed highly with him.
That's great.
But another reason before with Jay Huff and even I'll give a shout out to him, Nate Pierre-Louis, another fantastic defender. Jay Huff, Nate Pierre-Louis, and Andre Ingram, we had our little breathing club, which we did for at least 2 to 3 years. So I got into breath work. First of all, I just got into breathing just through PRI because PRI's Posture Restoration Institute, the big part of that is breathing and how we manage movement with breathing. But the real nugget or inspiration came because my first coach at South Bay was Kobe Carl, George Carl's son. He played for Lakers under Phil Jackson. So
he did? Wow.
Yeah. So his mentor is actually Phil Jackson.
Wow. Okay.
He coaches a lot more like Phil than he does like his dad. His dad's a hard ass. Yeah. He's a lot more sit back and analyze and let me get to know the players. Okay. So he brought Phil in once to give us a little team talk.
Really?
In the Laker film rooms, in that nice dark room. He gave us a meditation session. Wow. Now I've had meditation sessions before. My mom's into all that stuff, so I've done it with my mom in the park, and I've always I've never not been about it, but it's never resonated with me.
Sure, same.
Until you hear his voice with your eyes closed, because that was really fucking cool.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then Kobe Carl, that is, both. I know that Kobe Bryant was a component. He really endorsed meditation, but Kobe Carl was really trying to make our team kind of get into it. So just that little exposure made me realize this is something that I should do, because eventually Kobe would leave the team, Kobe Carl that is, and when we got our new head coach, who was completely different, it was up to me to kind of all right, let me keep up this tradition.
Wow.
So I not everybody at first, but like I said, I had
course.
those 3 guys, and they asked to do it. At first, it was literally something we did in Salt Lake to kind of get used to the elevation a bit. It's not a game changer, but it can make you feel a little bit more manageable of your breath.
Sure.
So it started there, and they were like, "Yo, we got to do this every game." So it became a game day tradition.
That's amazing. That's
breathing group.
Talk about buy-in.
Yeah, man, I loved it. But to be honest, I'm such into breathing and how it can help with weightlifting that no matter what, we would always do at least one breathing exercise / activation. ISO hold, but can you breathe and hold this? Sure. To start almost every weightlifting session. Yeah, not necessarily that has to be the way it's done. It's just the way I chose to do it to set the tone.
Sure.
And within those last 3 years at South Bay, where I started implementing that, I got almost total buy-in from everybody.
Wow.
Sure, there'd be some people who wouldn't take it seriously, but not 80% of the guys who'd walk in and be like, all right, what's the breathing exercise of the day? And they would just do their deep squat hang, their hamstring breathing, whatever it is.
Yeah. Amazing.
So that was awesome. But what was more cool this last year, because again, we changed head coaches again. This was Dane Johnson, the head coach, who'd been with me from year 1 assistant through with Kobe Carl. So through that exposure, he was like, I want you to do breathing with our team.
Wow.
Like the whole team this time. So not just whoever wants to come. No, we're going to do it with everybody.
Wow.
So sometimes we would do a 5-minute session in the film room, or sometimes we would do literally a 5-breath session center court before practice.
Okay.
Not all the time, but he wanted it. Just whenever the head coach wanted it, and that was again great collaborative empowerment, because it's easier with a small organization, right? G League, it's so much easier to collaborate.
For sure.
It's just me and 2 trainers.
Less red tape. Less people.
Easy for us to run up.
You get the endorsement from a head coach. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So between basically one head coach, 2 trainers and a strength coach, we could come up with a really good plan. And therefore, we actually had low injury rates the last 2 years.
Wow.
Once things got a little more settled in terms of staff organization and staffage. That, again, going back to collaboration, it helps when there are fewer people.
100%.
But really helps to also have people believe in what you do.
Right.
Which was imperative because the trainers believed in my PRI stuff. And they're like, okay, we do the soft tissue and activation, but this is something that we know helps on our end, so we want you to do it.
Amazing.
And they would even tell players, I need you to go see him for this. So, and then the head coach is also endorsing me for the meditation. So I just became this breathing guy, somehow. But, it's, again, that goes back to the Phil Jackson influence, and, again, also being around Kobe and knowing that. Wow. A little side story of that.
Yeah, it's great. It's so cool.
From Jay, just like I said, we're from the breathing group that we had. So Jay Huff, Andre, and Nate, that we would do that.
Yeah. Are there? Because I know you have so many stories. I just want them. Obviously, towards your, LeBron's been on the Lakers now for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you guys are in the same building.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's in the gym a lot. So do you have any memorable moments with him?
Yeah, there's been a few good moments with LeBron. So obviously, once the season's in full effect, South Bay's one area, Lakers are another area. Sure. We cross paths, but there's a lot of times when we're in the facility alone because our times are just different, right? Yeah. Then there's also the factor that LeBron does tend to conserve his energy as the season gets going, so he won't show up for shoot-arounds as much, or he won't show up as much. He just does things what he needs to. Yeah. However, what was so cool was that during the training camp period, or that leading up to training camp, that whole September, not August, he's out of August, but September, pre-season, October, up until season starts where I break off, he would always be in the weight room early in the morning, first thing. Me working with the two-ways and the rookies who are going to be on the G League team, we are in the gym first thing in the morning to be out the way. So for 6 or how many years he's been there, we've gotten to share the weight room with LeBron during that training camp period. And that's always been so cool because I think even the player, they don't even realize how special it is. Like I said, when you're around it every day, you don't realize. But then looking back, you're like, man, we were in the gym with LeBron working out. Another cool moment. I always got along with Mike Mancias, his trainer. He's currently doing big things with Vin Pham, the founder of Myo Detox, which is the fascial release. They're kind of doing their thing with LeBron even.
Right.
So Mike Mancias always kind of being into some of this fashion movement stuff. He loved all the stuff that I was doing in the weight room. So what was really cool, a couple of times he was like, what you did today, can you show LeBron that? I'm like, yeah. Of course, first time I was really nervous, but he's a cool dude. So Mike let me coach LeBron through an exercise twice, and that was really freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And he's just a chill dude, you know.
Yeah.
Even on it's funny, on my very last day, which was his first day of showing up and seeing me, gave me a very nice one of them two-handed handshakes, two-hand grasp handshakes, and that just felt good. So it's like respect's there, you know. But I would talk to him, you know. I don't abuse that position, right? So over the years, like, you know, the greeting gets bigger and more smiles. I'll ask him, hey, how was that concert, the Sphere, the very first Sphere show he went, or little things I'll talk to him, but I'm not obsessive about it, man.
No,
you know,
of course. Just building rapport, but
it's just I appreciate the acknowledgement. That means more to me, and he would always like almost stop in his tracks to say what's up to me.
That's great.
Just never a conversation, but just respect's there, just because he saw me grinding throughout the years.
Yeah. No, that's great. What about, like, I don't know, what's a memory you're very fond of looking back from any of the years?
Well, the Kobe conversations in the car. There was one time we were stuck at a red light, and he was like, I ain't got time to sit here all day. Run that bitch. What? And I was like, really? I was like, yeah. It was the left light. It was the left red light. Left turn red light. Okay. So I ran it. But, you know, that will stick with me. That final game with Kobe, because I was right there on the corner of the visiting bench.
Okay.
I hadn't been for a while because that's the runway position. And you got to run in, collect the uniforms.
Yeah.
I was usually doing waters because I was better with that. That game, I pulled rank. I was like, because I was a senior ball boy, I was like, sorry, buddy, not today. I'm getting that spot.
I'm watching.
So I took that spot. And as we all watched that game, you know, at first you're like, oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah.
Why is he missing so much?
First half was rough.
It was like, can someone let him score? But then it was real. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe the Jazz could have played a little harder, but they were really pissed on that bench. Like,
no, they were trying to win.
Yeah, also, they were
guarding him.
I was almost like, why are you guys not happy? This is amazing. And I was just giddy as these threes are going in. I'm like, I start like laughing out loud because it's like unbelievable.
It was insane.
David Beckham's next to me, and I'm like, I talk to him, I'm like, this is incredible, mate. My English accent comes out, and he's just in shock. And that final three, which is right in front of me, there's a shot I have the biggest grin on my face because I knew it was going in. The moment he sets his feet, I'm like, that is such a perfect fundamental footwork there. That is going in, and I've got goosebumps just even talking about it right now. But another really cool aspect, so in his final 2 years, he had this private trainer that was assigned to him. Okay. Just because it was post shoulder injury, post Achilles, there are a lot of problems. Again, Lakers have a small staff, so they're kind of like, we need you to take care of the players. We're going to have this guy assigned from like Baylor Scott and White, a research company in Texas. I don't know the connection, but we're assigning him to him. this guy was really cool, just like a manual therapist trainer. So, hey, aligns with me. And because I guess the Lakers staff weren't giving him the time of day, and I was like friendly to him, and not only that, they would go into the Kings locker room, which was right next door to the visitors locker room. So I gave him access. And out of that time, I got to kind of chit chat with him. And because I was the one like being all friendly, he just talked to me about what they would do. He even showed me some of these one of the manipulation moves we do to get his pelvis more aligned and all that. And I mean, this is freaking, okay, Kobe wasn't there, but this is the freaking coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
This is literally the guy prepping Kobe for his last few games, and he's showing me like what they're doing and what their methods are and all that. So, and again, this is kind of inspiring me into this identity, because at that moment, he was even like, yeah, you can do this too, man. You're dual certified. Like, you could be this guy too. That skyrocketed me in terms of like, okay, this is what I want to do in life. Like, I want to be not just a strength coach, but like a sort of manual therapist, kind of rehab, prep guys to the best, highest level. I wanted to own that. So again, that's why I went into certification crazy. I just wanted to know everything I could about the body, internal, mind-body connection. How do I get people feeling their absolute freaking best to go out for war? Yeah. And those moments right there were really like catalytic.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing. Yeah. I gotta go get some certifications now.
I'm just obviously everything's relative, you know.
No, of course. Yeah, I would say one side that I haven't yet explored is like the fascial side. I do really enjoy the benefits of like what I've learned from FRC. I think it's fantastic, but I haven't delved into anything fascial related yet. But that's next. I think that's the next frontier, I would say. Since we're talking about getting players ready and stuff.
Yeah, oh man, yes.
Let's go. Let's just talk about, I don't know, in season. Obviously, you had 8 seasons, right? So 8 seasons of like where you were like, I guess you were tinkering. You know, you like, this works, this doesn't work anymore. Let's try this. Let's try something else. So, anyways, long story short, is like in season training. Like what were like your big rocks?
Well, once again, the change from year one to last year.
Right.
My year one, even the I was like, I asked the head coach, Kobe Carl, how do you want me to do it? He was like, I want this to be a service. If players want to come lift, they come lift. If they don't, they don't. I don't want you to push them. Okay. It's offering. Okay. And again, strength and conditioning, even especially at G League, was not valued as much as it is today. So it was really like, I was just kind of just set up shop and wait for people to show up. So shout out to those first few players who would show up and give me that confidence of, all right, okay, they like what I do.
Yeah.
One of the big ones was we got a former NBA player, Jeff Ayers. Shout out to you, Jeff. Former Spur, won a championship in 2014.
Oh, wow.
Third rotation post player behind Tim Duncan. So you're talking about a really like, it comes from a pedigree, you know, Spurs basketball. This is a real tough guy, loves to lift, and a real like, he plays that tough guy role on the court too. So he was like, I want to come lift, you know, all that. And then he was just, you know, man, I feel great, you know, my mobility, everything's on point. We got to do this more often. Cool. And then he goes off on one game, and that's because of the activation. Fist bumps me. And, you know, just give me that kind of like,
the validation.
That validation was huge, especially because at the time we did have we were coming into a team that had just lost in the finals, so they were a close-knit team. They had no strength coach before, so it wasn't like they were about to change a lot of their ways because of here comes a new guy. So I really did have to, again, feel it out. It was a feel-out process. 100%. But to have somebody that was an NBA guy, champ, validate me, that was huge. And then later on along comes Andre Ingram. So at first it was really slow in figuring out this. Obviously I'm familiar with basic strength patterns, and that's one thing I learned greatly from Tim DiFrancesco, the strength coach, was programming in a nice sort of balanced way.
Right.
So not just doing bilateral movements all the time, a lot of unilateral stuff.
Sure,
you know, which not all the time, but a lot of the time, just to kind of really get players feeling out their weaknesses and whatnot. So I had a good like plan in mind, but to be honest, things didn't change till maybe like after COVID, and again, strength departments improve, and that's where the Lakers strength department did help me blossom with some more structure, where it's like, okay, well now we want like a plan in place of 3 days. We want players to lift at least 3 times a week, but it can be an offering, like, because if you offer it, then they're not necessarily going to do it.
Yeah.
So how do we do it with these games?
Right.
Because before I wasn't necessarily hitting that mark because, you know, you got games. So that's where it's like, okay, stress consolidation, I guess the theme is keep your high days high, your low days low. G League, you don't really need to do post-game lift. It's honestly not applicable, not as practical sometimes because we have to go back to the hotel and the bus, etc. Different in the NBA when you have a weight room right there and then you're potentially traveling to another city or whatever, right? G League, and especially even at the time at the Lakers, they were more fond of game day morning lifts. So it's just kind of the thing we did. So we would do like game day short morning lifts and then an activation pregame, and then obviously in your off days, try to plan out, okay, high days high, low days low, and then sort of have that nice balance so that we're not, you know, because even before that was part of what I would do is not lift on game days, and because there was no like strength structure, I would end up, well, it's time to lift. Okay, let's lift. Oh, but tomorrow's a game. But we lifted hard, and that would mean they'd be kind of sore for the game. Well, that's not good.
Yeah.
But they don't know better, so they don't want to necessarily lift on a game day. So again, I needed that structure as a strength coach. Remember, I didn't have the best experience before, so everything's a learning experience. You got to learn from everybody.
Of course.
And in terms of when it came to strength programming, I was really good rehab and working with trainers up until then, but in terms of strength programming, that's where I had a lot of help from the, you know, especially Randy Flores, who's assistant with the Lakers right now. In terms of how do you structure the week with 3 games, right? You know, and get those lifts in without compromising performance so much.
Yeah.
And that's some of the art of programming, realistically. That's hard. It takes a while to learn.
Yeah, for sure. It takes and obviously everything's there's gonna be a ton of improvisation as well. Like, you know, in terms of like nothing. The guy's gonna show up and he's like, my knee this, my back this, my ankle this. So like, oh well, let's throw this out the door and let's prioritize these things, right? I guess because I'm working with a lot of high school students now, and I have like my core group of athletes who like. They now love to come in and do a pregame lift as long as they have time before the game, after school, before the game, and they love it. They're like, I need a pregame lift today. Like, let's do it. And I'm like, yes, like this is it. So like the way I want to ask you, and I'll talk about how I like kind of think about structuring just a pregame lift day, but it's like essentially just first things first. I think of it as like because my sessions are an hour. They don't have in the pro setting, like our lifts were like 20 minutes long or 30 minutes at the most, like
in season,
at the most, but with these kids, I get a full hour. So like first segment, always going to prioritize soft tissue. Let's take care of soft tissue, this and that. Okay, now let's mobilize. Let's do a few static stretches. Let's talk about, I don't know, whatever, lengthening these joints and this musculature. All right, now let's go into our active, more dynamic movements. Let's get our temperature up a little bit. And then, okay, now let's do a mixture of multiplanar movements. So anti-rotation or rotation, anti-lateral flexion or whatever flexion, frontal plane, whatever, transverse plane, whatever it is. And then lastly, finish with something CNS related. So like doing anything, and I just think of it as something that's fun. So like I post a lot of videos of like doing tantrums because the kids love it. They think it's a lot of fun. But like tantrums, you get some rapid post chain work in, or we do jumps, or we do med ball throws, or we do whatever. But anyways, I want them to feel like they just did a really long warm up, but something that makes them feel really good, and then from a nervous system perspective, has them like fired up and has them feeling like really explosive walking out the door. But like for you, let's say in season, to this day now, how did you prioritize game day lifts?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, first of all, you got to look at the three best ever: LeBron, Kobe, Michael. They are all fans of game day lifting.
Yeah.
So that's already should be a sell factor, you know. But it was a priority, and obviously you know, once you say, well, this is the way we're doing it at Lakers, and this is what our expectation is, then it kind of sets the tone already. So, you know, like I said, I keep it very short. I keep it probably 20-ish minute, maybe 25 on game day. Literally, honestly, just one round of strength, meaning one big block where they'll do a push, a pull, a leg, and a core. You know, keep it condensed, but let's just get our 3 sets of these something, our big rocks. You know, and then later pregame would be a little bit more of the isolations or something CNS related. Yeah. Maybe a mobility. I usually, because I'm so limited on time, I usually let the trainers kind of handle a lot of some of the warm-up stuff. You know, the basic stuff, where I tell the players, come early, do your foam rolling and stretching, because when we start, we're kind of gonna get right into things. Right. You know, not obviously lift right away. We'll do something.
Because they don't get treatment before?
They do. They do. Okay. Yeah. They do. So
that's where they get their soft tissue.
And we had an agreement too with the trainers where I was like, look, I kind of want you to do the band stuff, because I'm going to do like more the movement, the hip hinge movement warm up, or the isolation glute hold or hamstring hold. Right. Where the band, no offense, the band's a good time and a place, but if I'm limited on time, and the trainers are kind of already dabbling with some of that, you guys do all that stuff.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great idea.
Different things.
That's the right approach.
So we had a good, collaboration. We had a good little system in place there.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like a 15. Would it be 15 or 10 minute? It would be a 10-15 minute pregame pregame before they're shooting. That would be the ISOs, the CNS stuff, and then a 20-minute morning after shoot around. Usually, they would all come in. They would all pack the weight room. It would be kind of cool, just on a rinky-dink hotel weight room on the road. And you have all these players coming in, but it's, you get their work in, and honestly, it doesn't have to be honest. This is the thing. What I've seen, it doesn't have to be the best work, just as long as you got some time with attention, repetition, so long as you keep lifting that, whatever the dumbbell is, you know, you're applying to that muscle memory, and we're also not like not lifting, right? Right. So, you know, the point is just keep it kind of consistent. Of course. Keep that core activated, because you know that's always going to help, and again, picking certain movements that can help maybe tune things up, tune up the hips a bit is always favorable too. So,
yeah, for sure. You know,
I'd be very mindful of what exercises I pick on game days, because I do want them to get a general good stimulus activation throughout. So we might not necessarily focus on stimulus, meaning hypertrophy or growth of that muscle, but can they get a full body activation while they're doing like a bench press or something like that?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Great, man. That's fun. Okay, last. You know what? I got 2 more.
Yeah.
Let's do
it. I'll try to be quicker.
No, don't be. I asked this of Andre as well, and I don't know. I think it matters. So like, I try to when I work with my kids, I try to let them know like, you need to. Yes, you're a young human being. You're a young athlete. You need to be good at everything. You need to learn all the compound movements. You know, basic strength training obviously is huge. Is very important. However, you play a sport, and you need to prep your body for the demands of this particular sport. So, and they can see the difference between the way I train and the way what we do and how we prioritize things in the weight room versus like when they go to school or when they go to a random gym or whatever it is. They're like, damn, that coach didn't know anything, or that coach was just doing random stuff, or, there was no rhyme or reason. I'm like, exactly. I'm glad you can now recognize that and just understand, like, you need to be selective with who you spend your time with and who is, like, in charge of your body, and, just empower yourself and advocate for yourself. So anyways, as it relates to basketball-specific training, like, what are your philosophies and how do you tie that into your training?
Philosophies, I think no matter if it's basketball or life, one of my compound theory philosophies is that we have to be able to navigate, manage, master single leg stance and alternation.
Great.
Which is basically forward movement or even lateral movement, whatever it is, you're going from one leg to the other. Now, how do we finally do that? There's finite and truly, master that. That's where I want us, me, the client, whether you're an athlete or a sedentary human, to really expose and get good at. Core is also important with that, but that's where, I believe no matter you're an athlete, regular human, you have to be able to manage your airflow, breath work with the core. Because otherwise I feel like, I don't feel like, we've seen that things can get a little janky and it can hinder movement capabilities. So it's the management of single leg stance with our airflow and core together is probably my priority number one.
Okay.
Now, we can translate that into, I want you to one day become an elite sprinter, because that is basically the highest level of what I just said.
Right.
So you could say I'm a sprint fanatic, but that doesn't mean that we're not gonna do some basic strength and conditioning principles.
Sure.
Very much you're fan of, you have to do your push pull and your vertical horizontal. You should squat, lunge, hinge, but especially be able to do, the hinge on both legs, the lunge on both legs. And then the core, though, what I find very important with core is that triplanar effect. So do we have sagittal ownership? Do we have frontal ownership?
Right.
Do we have transverse awareness? So you very much is kind of my program is about how do we construct a better human body? What's missing here, triplanar wise? Where are they at, and they're posturally? Because again, a lot of the stuff that I do comes back to posture. Okay, it's not that we want you to stand there with great posture. It's more of a lens that we look at the body with how are you choosing to hold yourself up? And what is that telling me about the muscles that are working? And once you see the body like that, you start to just program just with this eye that you have.
Yeah.
And obviously we do assessments, but the greatest assessment is the exercise.
Yes.
Every exercise is a test that shows you.
I say the same thing, yeah.
Yep. So that's, in terms of like the philosophy, it's, there is no true philosophy. That's why, again, I do a lot of unilateral stuff, because it's just about alternation, one side versus the next, because we are alternating human beings. We go from awake to sleep, we go from stress to not stress. Like everything in our body alternates or lack of thereof. And that's what is a key to a balanced lifestyle, pun intended, right?
Yes.
So
also,
I guess
sports are played on one leg as well, so.
And predominantly on one leg, so
right.
we kind of need to expose that.
Right.
And it's funny, like, you always hear of one bad leg, or if not two bad legs.
Right.
What if we had an athlete with two good legs?
Right.
I mean, I have two good legs, knock on wood, and I actually perform really well at 39 years old.
Yeah.
Or just look at these ambidextrous athletes who are really skilled because they could go with both hands.
Right.
Being able to go with both sides of your body is a skill. We're just actually not that good at it, because it is coordination. You have to work a leg with the opposite arm, and then the other leg with the opposite arm, and then your trunk has to be able to navigate. It has to be able to breathe efficiently, and then you have a head that accepts all that pressure and weight, with a visual system that can accept all the space. That's PRI for you. That's why I'm fanatical about it.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, great. All right, one more. So, because I would say a large part of my audience and demographic is youth and high school athletes, their parents as well, what would you tell a young aspiring student athlete and or their parents about pursuing collegiate hoops and beyond, or just high level athletics?
Yeah, don't listen to the coach. No. Look, obviously, first off, listen to the coach. Even if it's criticism, you have to learn to be able to accept it. But don't listen to that. Their coaches doesn't know what's going to happen in a season. They're going to predict who's going to play. So if they tell you you're not going to play, that's fine. go there, prove them wrong. And the chances are, if you really work your hardest, you'll probably have a very fun time doing it, even if you... Because I did prove my freshman coach wrong, and he was actually impressed by the time I was going to leave. He was actually really impressed by me. And that felt really good. It's a good memory.
Yeah.
So, even if you're not going to get the promise, don't give up. Work hard. Do lift your weights, because we've seen how important weightlifting is. Yes. And just do try and have fun. I think we put too much emphasis on the outcome and not enough on the process.
Yeah, it's nice.
Great quote by Kobe at his retirement was talking to his girls. It's not the destination, it's the journey.
All right.
And if you learn to love that, that is the dream.
The dream, yeah. And the journey is the dream. Yeah.
Man, it's so true. And I'm living that way, and that's why I think I'm happier in life, because it's like the process is getting up every day and loving that you're doing what you're doing and getting better, and then great things will happen. That's the beauty of it. Yeah, so as much as we may want this college, that playing opportunity, just do your weightlifting, because it's important. Listen to your coach about what you need to do, because that's important. But then don't listen to the criticisms. Just keep doing your thing, because you're going to get criticized all the time in life. People are always going to tell you it's not going to work or whatever. And guess what? You're going to have to keep on going, because you're going to be a determined mofo who wants to achieve their dreams. So keep living that way. You have to be stubborn like that. And try to have fun. If that means playing other sports as well, other activities, don't signal to just one sport and put all your eggs into a basket. I think it is better to maybe do another, even if it's just a hobby, like a weekend hobby of playing another sport or martial art or something. Just do something else just to kind of get that varied experience.
Yeah, of course.
Different teaching, different coaching philosophies that could apply, right?
For sure. It can serve as an outlet as well. For sure.
Exactly.
That's great. All right, we're going to have some fun now.
Yeah.
This is like the lightning round. So just first thing off the top of your head to answer whatever the question is.
Let's go.
All right. Who are your top 5 favorite artists of all time?
Okay, you guys are not going to know a lot of these, because I am a electronic music nut.
Okay.
But let's throw one mention for Linkin Park in there, because I did do a lot of listening to Linkin Park growing up.
Yeah, same.
But electronic music was just something I fell in love with. It fuels my thought process. So if you've heard of them, we're going to go Above and Beyond. They're pretty good. Of
course, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Then, I guess I'll say Armin van Buuren's another big name. Yeah,
it's a throwback. He's a legend.
It's not necessarily his music. I like him as a DJ just because he brings the good music I like.
Yeah.
But then just some smaller names that over the years, these artists aren't that big, and they have social media, and if you keep hitting them up, eventually you get in contact with them. But it's more just I love their music. I love Universal Solution, and I love Marsh. You wouldn't have heard of them, but they're all under the
I haven't heard of them.
Above and Beyond sort of label. Because Above and Beyond's a bigger artist, they have a record label, they have other artists. So that's how you kind of, it's a tree. It's all a big tree, and that's how you decide to find all these other underground artists. So
that's great.
It kind of keeps me in that realm a lot, man.
That's great. Okay, great. Linkin Park, Above and Beyond, Armin van Buuren, Marsh,
and Universal Solution.
Universal Solution. Okay.
I'm like 0.0005% top fans of his. I think he doesn't even know what to think of it, but it just fuels my mind, man. Again, visualization and what you think and dream of is really what you'll become. I am a big believer of that, and so I love to do that all the time. And so I need music that kind of fuels that.
Yeah.
So dream on, kids. Yeah, again, it might not be the college, but it might be something beyond that. You have to keep on dreaming it. Right?
Yeah, that's great. No, I listen to music that also inspires me, introspective as well.
Right.
Whether it's hip-hop or electronic, actually.
No matter, yeah.
Yeah. This is a new one I just added to my repertoire. So you'll be the first to ask this. Do you have a pivotal moment in your career where things could have gone one way or another? Was there a defining moment that led you to today?
Yeah, it was during Laker ball boy time when I wasn't exactly sure am I going to get into this field? Can I be a strength coach? If I'm not a strength coach, how am I going to navigate the private sector, which is a big thing, you know? And I think maybe it was partially the conversation with Kobe. I think that happened a little bit before. But realistically, I don't know if it was a pivotal moment, but just meeting the Smile Detox founder, Vin Pham, off of Instagram. This is before he got big. And he was trying to be educational. And he was like, I'm coming to LA. I want to meet you, Mayo fam. You know, let's come meet up. And, you know, a few of us come up, and I was one of the people show up. And, you know, just feeling that kind of lost in direction. And he was like, yeah, you know, but if you learn a great skill and you can really help people, it doesn't matter what title you have. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor or whatever. Because at the time I was thinking, then, again, Gary Vee's word, do I go back to school? What do I do? Sure. So that moment of him just inspiring me, and then knowing that Kobe liked this style of myofascial release, and then saying, okay, I'm going to do Vin's course, uplifted me. And then after I did the course, that knowing like, absolutely, this is what I'm determined, this is what I'm put on this earth to do, to heal people and help them move better. Not one event, but those sort of 2015, this sort of sector right there. Yeah. That's where it all happened.
Okay, that's great. I remember Vin and a couple of his business partners. They invited me out to dinner.
Oh, nice.
It was like about 3 years ago. Wow. Maybe 3 years ago is my guess. We were talking about collaborating and everything. Nothing ended up happening. We still stay in touch and everything. But it was great to like, they're doing some cool things, as you mentioned.
They're growing business, so shout out to them.
It's great. Let's see. I feel like I might know I'm excited to hear this. If you could relive one day in your career, which would it be?
Oh, man. I don't know how you could even say that. There are a lot of great moments in life, but I feel they'll happen again. So let's relive that last Kobe game one more time.
Okay, beautiful.
Just for one time for you, Kobe.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, maybe one or two more. Who are 5 people you'd want to sit and grab beers with, dead or alive?
Man, okay. I want one person to represent human history. Okay. This would be Graham Hancock. He's a ancient civilization researcher expert. Or he sort of leads the research on ancient civilizations, and he keeps coming up with like, look, as he says, stuff keeps getting older. Like, he basically proposes like we are not the first advanced civilization to live. There were maybe previous ones, whether it's ancient Egypt or anywhere. There's all these megalithic sites around the world that people didn't know how appeared. So he sort of represents that school of knowledge. I need one person to represent evolution/human body. That will be Ron Hruska of the Postural Restoration Institute. Because if you ever hear that man talk, you will realize that this is one of the smartest people in the world when it comes to what we are as human beings. Wow. So there's those two. I want one person to represent space. We'll go Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay. I just feel he's a good person to represent space. Let's represent one entrepreneurial tech/space. We'll bring Elon Musk there.
Okay, saw that coming.
And then, honestly, the last one's hard, but we got to give a shout out to the animals. So let's bring David Attenborough.
Who's that?
The British narrator of all the BBC.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's a hell of a table.
I thought about this one. Though, but it's
a wealth of knowledge there.
But some of those guys I would die to be at a table with, because I'm really into ancient. Again, I kind of do believe that there was some mysteries unsolved in the past that that I'd love to know more about, and again, the human body and evolution and what makes us, why we are who we are, and why we move the way we are, is so fascinating to me.
Amazing. All right, last one. Let's go deep here. Where do you draw your strength from when things get tough?
Ooh.
What helps you overcome whatever adversity you're facing?
Man, this is going to sound cheesy because we mentioned his name, but I really do feel impacted by Kobe. Now, I know people talk about it, but I was that international kid that has the only way you're going to get to this dominant land of basketball is if you follow this guy that's a perfect example, and also a very smart guy too, studious, which you have to be.
Yes.
So that starts there. Then you got to work with him, be with him. Then you got to ask him, you got to influence your career. One time he even, Mike Brown time, a lot of coaches were old. They have me in for a drill to be a scout. You run the scout because they don't have too many young guys.
Yeah.
Kobe's guarding me. I've never felt somebody guard me so hard on a dummy drill before. But that guy like poked me, prodded me, and I was like, damn, this guy's not messing around. Unfortunately, at that point, they were like, hey, this guy, the HR person was watching. They were like, no, he can't do that. He's not a full-time employee. He could get hurt. So it literally ended with Kobe guarding me on a dummy drill. But just those moments, and again, my career, like, yeah, there's been ups and downs. There's been times where I've doubted myself, but
yeah, of course,
to have those moments and be like, no, you are meant to do this, and you really have a knowledge for the body. I draw on those moments, and not just, again, even just my clients, just having a good session with your client and turning their day around is enough to make you realize, like, man, this is really inspiring. This is because I could be having the worst day, and you're like dreading going to, oh God, I gotta go freaking see a client now. I just don't want to see him. And then afterwards, I'm like, I don't even know what I was tripping about.
Right.
Because they put me in a good mood by me doing what I love.
Right.
So I get inspired.
You also have to show it for them. So you have to make sure that you can compartmentalize in a way. Right.
But
then it helps. Yeah.
Doing what you love, I think, is the healing, is the change of mindset.
Of course.
You eradicate those negative thoughts, and now you're doing what you love.
Right.
So
exactly.
Again, to my clients, they help me me more than I even help them sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool, man. Look, I just want to say thank you for coming. Like I said, I've been trying to get you on for a while, so thank you for making the time. And I know, like we've spoken about, you're entering a new frontier. You're in the private space now. You're doing your own thing, and you have, you're exploring what it is that you want to do exactly, but you have options, which is great. You're in a good position to be in. So, obviously, I'm here to support you if you ever need anything.
Appreciate that.
Man, I just want to say thank you. Thank you
I
for coming.
appreciate the recognition. I love being here, and I love what you're doing with all the kids. Kids keep getting stronger because it really is the way.
Yeah.
And that's what we're kind of here, changing the ways. We're trying to really show that strength and conditioning is something that we all need to be doing. And so props to you, and I hope we keep on doing, having good careers doing so.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that.
Of course, bro. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. All right, guys. That's another episode. Please show some love, like, subscribe, comment. Let's reach more people. Let's share more stories. All right. Peace.